Welcome in, everybody. We got another matchup about to be on our hands here after Ole Miss managed to take the victory over Coastal Gamers, but this time they're going to have to go up against 18th seeded Reluminate, who had a pretty strong showing in their first game. Yanni and Alk Battery still going to be on the call for this one. Alk Battery, Reluminate is a team that certainly had some disparity in what people put them in the seedings, but so far, after the first game, looks pretty good. Roster pretty solid too.
Yeah, they did have to go up against ISU, who, taking a look at the seeding, was a 15th seed, so a minor upset there. 15th to 18th is definitely, once we get towards that 16th spot, it's very contentious. I know we were talking about it in between these games, but after about the 10th to 15th team on the committee sheet anyway, it became very difficult to start to try to rank for a lot of people on the committee. So I am very interested to see what the pool ends up being outside of our top 10, our top 12, because last year anyway, we were looking at the pool and we were saying, okay, top 12, top 16 feels relatively like you could throw a dart and you could say, okay, these are top 16 and we know that they're going to end up somewhere on here, any rank in between these, with a certain band, give or take. But now we come in and there's so much talent that has already moved up into qualifiers, or moved up to Challengers League proper. You even have, some of those players actually making it to LCS. So now we're looking at a landscape where there is a lot of different players that I think a lot of audience and committee members are going to be kind of seeing for the first time in some certain stage games. So very interested, but we now have the first part of our draft here for Ole Miss versus Reluminate. And Corky staying a ban. I didn't want this champion to come back, but I played a game of it and I've been seeing a lot of it in Korean solo queue as well. This champion I think is just, unfortunately, it's making its way back. The champion is just too good.
What do you mean, unfortunately? I love me some Corky. Corky's one of my favorite champions. Now, listen, Corky is one of my favorite champions because I got rose-colored glasses, right? Because I remember old Corky. I remember Corky before the package. I can understand how today's Corky is a little bit bothersome, right? Because everybody just do nothing, fight around package, right? And that's kind of how his play style goes. I poke, I fight around package, and I call it a day after that. So I can totally see why you have some dislike of that. A couple other bands, a couple other champions I'm happy to not see. I really didn't want to see another Seraphine again. I enjoy playing Seraphine. I don't like really seeing Seraphine. I mean, I like when bot lanes fight each other and Seraphine just cast spells, walk away, everything's fine, right? We just saw them. Seraphine was just the punching bag in that lane, and we didn't really see anything else in the last Ole Miss game. So
yeah,
I know there was spicy tech though.
If you missed out on the last game, you can go ahead and check the VOD. We were watching the Coastal Gamers versus Ole Miss. It was their first round. For anybody who's just joining or, just now clicking onto it, this is the second round of Swiss. Is the last game that we're going to be playing on the 20th. 21st is going to be having all the last 3 games that are going to be played for all of the teams. So Ole Miss, these are 2 teams that are now 1-0 at the beginning of Swiss, so starting off good. And hey, if you can get 2-0 in the first day, it is a very strong setup to just get a single win and call it quits after that. You're already secure. Obviously, higher seeding is better. However, 3 is all you need to do to be able to make it into Swiss. We have seen teams scrape by. We've seen teams get in from 2-0 to getting 3-2, and hey, you just want to make it. That is the most important part, is making it to the group stage.
Yeah. You're getting yourself a second win going into day 2. As you said, obviously very important, but also for the mentality, right? Because, if you happen to lose your 2-0 match, it's like, all right, no big deal. We just need 1. Everything's all good. So
yeah,
we're seeing the Udyr come back out for Ole Miss. An interesting move here by Reluminate, going Lucian Karma here. There are a lot of really good options that you really are pretty stock standard with Lucian, like Nami, like Melio, and they opt to go for the Karma here. And I want to say confused, but I think it's curious because I think Lucian Karma could totally work. It's different from the trend,
Yeah, I wanted to see what Reluminate were going to do, just because this is a team that is very, very interesting. I thought when we saw this Crucial and Shimmer playing in OQ's last year, I was a little bit interested just because my only kind of I guess, exposure to Crucial is through Twitter. So seeing a lot of his EDU content was kind of interesting, and seeing some of his high elo streams were something that kind of piqued my interest. And I thought, hey, with Shimmer, seems like a player that is going to be really interesting to watch. We brought out the Hecarim last year when it wasn't super popular. And now we're in a meta where jungle camps are super, super impactful, where full clear is definitely something you can look towards. We have a lot of different objective timers that are very cool. And I was wondering if this Karma was going to be in one of the solo lanes, not only for Crucial, but maybe Fools was going to be pulling out here the Karma. Reluminate having a roster that I think was very interesting, and we just talked about it, but I did want to reiterate that this was a team that we had a lot of different opinions as to where they should land. I think the highest one was actually Colomer, putting them at 13th. So some people expecting them to make the top 16. Well, I know for myself, I have them at 21, but I do know also that I put this team originally a lot higher and moved them down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a team I actually believe I put a little lower and moved them up. I think we were within a pick or two of each other. So,
yeah,
you know, we were pretty similar on the barometer of what this team could bring out. But I mean, after that first game, you know, all bets are off. Seeing them pick up the W against, you know, the well-established ISU at this point. And as you mentioned, that flex to flexing the Karma, getting the Braum and the Lucian together against the Nautilus Draven. Very, very nice to see out there. I personally like that lane into Draven Nautilus. You can survive and do a lot of good things there. But you did touch upon Shimmer for a little bit. And, you know, Shimmer, player that I am really excited for in 2024. I'm really hoping that he has his breakout year, because he had a lot of really high-level people talking really highly about him from his Champions Queue games. He was apparently lighting the world on fire in Champions Queue, so I'm excited to see him in the open qualifiers, already a win under his belt. Second half of the bans, Jax, Orianna, pretty common ones getting taken off the board for other teams.
Yeah, and with the Udyr pick, which we assume is going to be going towards Stray in the top lane, I wonder what Crucial's answer is going to be. We've seen, you know, a lot of different champions. I think the Singe theoretically can be a counter towards this champion, something where you just ignore Udyr and you're more so playing a stopgap measure versus this champion. But I mean, Crucial, known for his GP, also looking towards the jungle here, what Shimmer is going to be able to pick. I think we have a really interesting matchup between not only Shimmer, who's very hyped up for this year, but Icelandic hero KJ, someone that throughout 2023, I think really made a name for themselves here as being on this Old Mist roster. I think elevated a lot of what we saw from this player.
Yeah, this is a treat, really. You know, you get to see two up-and-coming young junglers, and you know, again, not quite sure what they're going to go with out of the jungle, or, you know, as you mentioned, even out of the top lane. Singe, as you mentioned, it just feels like you have to warp your team around the Singed more than you have to warp your team around
this Singe champion is dumb. Like, this Singe champion, like, the numbers are really broken. This champion just walks at you. Singed is a champion that I actually would disagree that you have to play around, and more so a champion that is so agnostic to everything else that's happening around the map that he kind of just does whatever he wants. And it requires a really strong pilot to know what you need to be doing. He has very strong team fighting because of his ultimate giving him an insane amount of stats. We don't actually have to talk about this champion. He is not in this game. I don't think he's going to be in this game. We have a final pick here, and let's get down to brass tacks here. So we have a Zyra in this game. I'm going to wait for everyone to lock in before we kind of talk about this. The Nautilus being very strong as an answer into Braum, or as kind of like when we're talking about answering into Lucian, the Braum being a great counter there. I wonder if, now this is some dark tech, are they going to be playing this Nautilus mid? Because I've been hearing some rumors, I've been getting some rumblings from the coaches about what they're pulling out at Old Miss. And maybe this is the strategy of kind of preventing some of the worries that we had for Uncle Sam. One of the biggest criticisms for this Old Miss roster was the fact that their mid was just weak. Uncle Sam has a tendency to die, and against a lot of the top 3 mid laners, like we saw in the Invitational and like we've seen throughout plenty of collegiate lands, your Uncle Sam was a point of weakness that was taken advantage of by multiple different teams. And if you can kind of offload a lot of that responsibility by putting him on stuff like the Seraphine, stuff like the Nautilus, then you have, you know, some freed up space to be able to set up these carries like Shogo, like Icelandic Hero in these drafts.
Yeah, and that's the out of the box thinking that I love that Ole Miss has, right? Because you get to cover, as you mentioned, the weaknesses of the mid laner, right? By putting him on something that typically would not be sent mid, although we have seen it a couple of times in the past, right? So that is really, really nice to see. Some of the other flexes that came out, obviously we're going to see, it looks like it's probably going to be Karma top. I haven't seen Syndra top in pretty much ever, so not too surprised there. But this jungle matchup, again, we talked about how strong these junglers are. I'm excited about the Kha'Zix versus the Viego.
Kha'Zix versus Viego, going to be a lot of skirmishing there. I'm looking towards the river when we're talking about them. And another situation where I think we can then rope in a lot of those mid laners that we were just talking about. The fact that it is going to be a Nautilus versus Syndra. Such good gank setup from either of these two. Obviously, Nautilus has a lot more crowd control, but if they can isolate this Syndra, I think that her not having flash is just going to be a death sentence every single time. It's something you're going to be looking for in fights. Where are they landing the poke? Rhino with this Zyra is going to be doing something a little bit different, but something that is typically in the support position, which is moving forward to gain space and to create pressure and make sure that you're protecting vision. But now with Zyra plants, which means you can face check brushes very, very easily. You not only have the Nautilus, but now Zyra can just put down her plants. You can move forward. And when you look at where Reluminate want to hang in terms of their range and where they're going to be able to play, Zyra ultimate is very dangerous for them to deal with. This is another composition where I think yet again, Udyr just kind of reigns supreme. I know we haven't talked too much about top lane, but is very difficult for Reluminate's champions to stop Udyr from running into your backline. So very, very nice draft here from Old Miss. And yet again, it comes down to execution.
Yeah, as it always does. And you saw Old Miss a little shaky in that first game, and Reluminate, I believe their team, the good news for them is if Ole Miss comes out flat like they did at the beginning of game one, I mean, Reluminate could come through, take a pretty large advantage. Like, you give a Lucian a kill, things like that, things can start snowballing pretty quickly, as well as a Syndra or a Viego. So lots of things to be worried about there. But as you mentioned, the game goes, Ole Miss, they could find themselves in the driver's seat just by sole virtue of what their champions do. And of course, while Reluminate could get things going, you take a look at a champion like a Draven, right? One cash out early because an early mistake occurs, and all of a sudden, there goes the neighborhood, right?
That is true. Draven definitely will be able to scale up. There's two different kind of avenues of thinking for Draven that we tend to see, which is one, the most obvious one, just play super lane dominant. This is a champion that gets an insane amount of AD at level 1. And Lucian, while he can push, doesn't have that same access, especially yet again, picking a double ranged bot lane here for Old Miss, something that we're starting to see just across pro play in general. And for the Braum, you're playing forward defense. You're playing a lot towards kind of enabling a lot more of these carries. What I will say for the side of Reluminate is when you look at this jungle kind of trio, whether it is going to be jungle support and they're mid, or you're walking with AD, there's a lot of setup for them to actually burst out single targets. And that's where we're going to have to see them really start to rely on vision and making sure that they're proactive on the play. Because if this team can get to objectives first, you can stop Zyra, you can pick her off, which is going to be more important. That's where Syndra is going to find a lot of her value, is scatter the weak into Fog of War or someone where they're walking where they shouldn't and you're able to find that kill. That is the only way I see Reluminate really being able to find an advantage once we get to team fights.
Yeah, and when it comes to fighting against objectives and things like that, you talk about lane states and things like that. Syndra really gonna have an advantage in the mid lane for a large majority of the early game. At least we're expecting. Obviously, Ole Miss is gonna have to make some plays happen. You mentioned earlier forcing Syndra's flash out to be able to force her to play safer, but when the time comes, Syndra can hit the go button, pretty much eviscerate the wave, and then be able to get first move on this Nautilus.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, because Uncle Sam, my guy, has all these disgusting tank items he can build. You haven't played on patch 14.1? Tanks got some real items. I think AP champions in particular got a lot of really good items. I'm not even just talking about the new Malignance item, but all of them I think got revamped. The fact that I can now see a lot of mages that aren't just named Vhagar get almost 1,000 AP is really cool. I think for balance reasons, and then specifically as an AD carry player, I don't find it particularly interesting because I'm just going to get one shot. However, the fact that they can do it, I think as a player, is way more fun. The number is bigger, which means I'm having more fun. That is typically how this goes.
Yeah, listen, it comes down to the players and how much fun they're having. And as an AD carry, you mentioned it, not a whole lot of fun for us. I've kind of moved over to the mid lane myself personally because of this. But, you know, big number always make people happy, you know. Like, everybody wants to do more damage. And, you know, I'm excited to see how much damage is going to come out of these teams and players, and if the damage items in the mid lane are going to be able to overcome the tank items in the mid lane, as we have gotten onto Summoner's Rift here for the final game of day 1 of the Open Qualifier Swiss.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Now we're talking about seeds. You know, we're just doing some quick homework here. Ole Miss 4th and Reluminate being 18th. This is yet again another match where we are expecting, at least because of the seed variance, for Ole Miss to take out, take care of business, come home with the 2-0. However, Reluminate, we've been talking about, are a team full of strong members. Crucial and Shimmer returning from the Conviction roster of last year. And I'm always a very big fan of getting pairs or getting more players that have already played in a set environment before, as you have a lot of already innate synergy. They already know how the other wants to play, how they're going to communicate, and makes it so that you're not spending the first couple of games practicing, just trying to make sure that you guys are all on the same page.
Right, and you know, keep in mind that they did lose once they made it into the playoffs of that qualifier, but they lost to Lit Esports, which at that time had a really, really strong roster. It was a 2-1. Obviously, the roster for that Conviction team was very different, but they got good experience versus some really, really good players, and I'm expecting Crucial and Shimmer to really make a big impact in this game. You know, maybe Crucial less so. It's kind of hard to make your impact known as a Karma. Like, it's a lot of really subtle things that is where your impact shows.
Also have the potential to go for the double support item here, so we'll see what the tech is going to be. Otherwise, because if that's going to be the case, then it really is just going to be the Shimmer and Kafu show. Like, they are just going to run the game every single time. They're going to be ahead in gold if they're able to do this. And Karma is a champion that doesn't really need a lot of AP. She's obviously getting buffs next patch for no reason. The amount of buffs she's getting next patch are absolutely ridiculous. If you haven't seen them, you'll just have to wait to watch the patch notes or to see the patch notes. But I mean, if they are going for this, basically what we should be expecting is starting with this D-Ring like we see, and then first back. That is the most important one that I want to see, because if they get the World Atlas, then we already know they're going to be empowering Shimmer, and they're going to be making sure that Shimmer Fools are really the two players that take over this game.
Yeah, those are the ones you want. That's why you put Shimmer on a champion like a Viego to be able to take over, make things happen. Seeing the advantages tilt a little bit toward Reluminate in the bot lane, as they were able to hit level 2 first. And Shogo and Rhino, yeah, they're matching that right now, but have a small pause bug on my end at the very least.
I was gonna say, no, that was the.
That's how it goes.
It was both of us. We're chilling.
Okay, good to hear. Yeah, because you never know sometimes. You never know sometimes with the client. Trying to the bad talk our beautiful League of Legends client, but
of course, right? Games coming they're coming for you, Yanni. You already know.
Oh no, man.
Are pathing towards the bottom side of the map here, and for the time being, it seems like Exothy and Kafu have actually gotten lane priority over the Draven and Zyra, something we don't typically expect yet again, because we were talking about this being double range, but this is also, you know, a really good setup. If we do see Icelandic Hero, they can set this up. The root from Zyra is only really going to be able to land on Braum. If he throws up the shield, it's going to stop the root, and maybe they're able to get out of that, but I think the most that they can expect here, if they are going to try and go for this crash, is really trying to take summoners away and deny XP and gold.
Yeah, and that Ward wouldn't be able to spot out Icelandic Hero unless he comes through the lane, and you know, that's only if they decide they want to try to make a move onto this Braum Lucian, which would be mighty difficult. We're going to get a little bit more vision in the bot side. Clearly not seeing Shimmer in the area, but we're seeing Icelandic Hero getting spotted out. So they might just end up trading crabs here.
They're on different sides of the map here now. Crucial can actually set this up. The wave is pushing thanks to this Udyr champion just pressing Phoenix stance every single time. This is the fun part of playing against Karma top. Range top laner, you're playing Udyr, and she can also stop you most of the time whenever she wants. Also has a really nice full HP heal on her W tether, so very difficult to deal with, and I think can actually handle a little bit of what Udyr tends to bring in the laning phase, which is the fact that he has unfettered access to wave clear thanks to his ultimate ability and not really having to be level 6 to have access to it, and also just how resilient this champion can be, the shielding, the amount of healing, and also unfortunately Udyr also deals damage because of course this champion does.
It seems like Udyr does everything. You
Yeah.
know, maybe that's why he's so popular and getting picked almost literally everywhere at this point. I'm sure probably by this time we've probably seen an LCS pick on him.
Yeah, maybe. We're you know, obviously streaming at the same time as LCS, but we're not actually streaming. So
Yep.
looks like they're making that play up the top side. First blood here potential.
Oh yeah, Icelandic Hero is ready to go. The flash is going to get put out anyway, but it is going to be first blood for Icelandic Hero all the same.
That was a really good punish there, making sure that they can grab that. Not only did they get the flash out of Crucell, but they obviously get that kill. Really good timer there. I think that was a bit of a situation where if you're Crucell, you're asking your jungler, okay, you're on the top side of the map. I know you're here. I might need help crashing this wave. It is an Udyr, so we've already talked about how difficult it is to actually kind of push this against this champion. And right now we're going to see early Void Grubs being taken. You already see Crucell's actually stopping that from happening. So only one Void Grub has been taken. But I love that Crucell immediately comes back to lane and is able to just say, no, I'm stopping this. My jungler's on the opposite side of the map. It is a small win for this team.
Yeah, making an immediate impact like that is always great. Is Crucell just going to go right back to work? You can see him already taking it to straight, a little back himself, but he just mentioned that wave clear is something ridiculous, and especially with those Merc treads as well, Straight is going to have a much better time than he did initially.
Now we've been talking about both of these junglers and how they can really set up. Crucell actually not going for the World Atlas, so thank God we're not getting double support items in the qualifiers. This is a strategy that is very, very lucrative, but does take a little bit of understanding and I think some studying to take care of. And oh my God, I get stolen.
KJ, bro. Oh man, that was something. Like he just went in for it, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go get it. Crucell on the other side here, gonna heal back quite a bit.
You can say it was something. I'm going to say it was bad. Like, this was a situation where you don't have priority from your mid laner. I love the fact that we're seeing them kind of take these plays that are checking your opponent, saying, are you paying attention? Are you making sure to check that we're doing the objective? But I mean, Rhino just took a recall and is coming back from base. Your Uncle Sam is not going to have priority in mid unless you move through the lane first. If you're the jungler or if you're Rhino, you have to go through mid first to help your Uncle Sam get priority to move into the river. You help your mid laner, he's going to help you. And in this instance, this is a situation where now both objectives on either side of the map did not work out for them. They tried to go for this Void Grub. I'll hold this, Crucell.
Oh,
they find
Shimmer.
Stray.
Yeah, Shimmer is gonna wear his body like a skin suit, and he's gonna get on top of Icelandic Hero. Crucell should be able to get out without dying, just barely. And they're the one that's able to pick up the kill. And so far, so good for Reluminate as they win on the top side too.
And this is a really good start now. Uncle Sam, level 6, level 7, has the ultimate. They want to try to make this play work, but he's on vision and they're not able to make this happen on the dive. Maybe on this next wave, but again, you're looking at Fools getting more of those minions. He's pushing in this mid wave. Old Miss, I think, are in a very difficult situation now where top lane is not in that great position. Kha'Zix is not going to have that same kill threat that we expect him to. And now you also, on the flip side, have a very fed Viego very early on.
Yeah, and you take a look at your strong point on your team. Yeah, Shogo, sure, 74 CS, up in CS, right? But doesn't really have too much more punch. Let's see, Crucell will find themselves in trouble as Icelandic Hero is going to fly in and going to be able to help Straight get his first kill of the game. So good response there at the very least, get something back.
Okay, Crucell, I know we played with your jungler already. I'm kind of sad to see this, but you need to call Shimmer up there and tell him this wave needs to be under the turret. I need to get my recall. Like, I understand it. Crucell, I think, getting now punished twice on some pretty greedy backs. Yes, needed the wave under the turret. You don't want to get frozen on by Udyr. You don't want to have to try to fight Udyr to get into the wave, but you're also not building a ton of damage right now, going for the early Oblivion Orb, which does have magic penetration on top of it, but like, you really need to make sure that we're paying that we're getting this wave in. This is 2 deaths now that have gone over, and if this is something that other teams can punish as well, I think this is a strategy that is definitely very easily fixed as long as these two are communicating.
Yeah, and that's keeping Ole Miss in the game, really, right? Because I like what Reluminate's been able to do elsewhere, but this top side is just starting to struggle a little bit, and You know, you keep them in the game for too long, they're liable to potentially take over at any point. We'll see if Shimmer is strong enough to prevent that sort of thing. Uncle Sam in the area here hasn't been able to make an impact that I'm sure Ole Miss has wanted. So Shimmer is just going to be able to run this bottom side of the river at the very least.
I forgot that I had to double check this because I know that they changed a bunch of items. I forgot that they removed, what is it? Magic penetration off this item. This is even worse than
oh my god, yeah.
It's 30 ability power versus Merc Shred Spectre's Cowl. You are effectively never going to deal damage, and I think that's fine as a recognition as Karma versus the Udyr, but just thoughts, you know, things you're gonna have to think about, especially because Udyr does have a lot of healing, but I think the more annoying part for champions like Karma and you know, like the Syndra is going to be a lot of that shielding that this champion has.
Yeah, not exactly the best item as you had mentioned. Like, oh yeah, look at that heal cut. He's heal cutting.
We'll do an Oblivion Orb check at the end of the game before the Nexus explode. We'll make sure to take a look at it. We are at 10 minutes. Dragon spawning in 45. You already kind of see how they're playing around it. You see that Uncle Sam now getting their recall in, wanting to come back with items, be very powerful for this objective. There are no camps for Icelandic hero to take part of in this top lane. And we touched on it a little bit. I think this is going to be Rhino falling, teleports in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this teleport might not be so great as they're going to be able to converge onto Uncle Sam here, who is stunned up, already burned his ultimate. He's got nowhere to go. He's going to flash away, but he is going to fall. A double kill for Shimmer and disaster striking for Ole Miss there. I mean, oh, that's so rough. And it looks like this second dragon, will be all for Reluminate.
All right, Ole Miss fans, you are going to do the thing that you were doing all of last year, which is praying to God that Shogo drops a bomb on this game, because he's the only one that can really do it. He has a CS advantage, and he has like a ton of those Draven stacks still ready to go. So if he's able to get that first kill, then he's going to be in a really good position, and we're looking at them to kind of really rally behind the two-peat goat here, because it is not looking good. Stray is always going to do that same kind of play where he is just playing Udyr, and his champion is always going to be, I think, relevant. But you look across the map, and your Uncle Sam is starting to slip behind, starting to be some of those issues that we talked about when we were looking at this team coming in from 2023. And so far, this double range bot lane has not been able to get all that much done. It's a single plate, it's 20 CS, but now you look at this bottom lane and they're picking up a few assists. They're making sure to at least stay somewhat relevant in the goal department there.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm just going to flat out say it. This is why I seeded them outside the top 4. They consistently put Shogo in very difficult and impossible situations, and I was hoping that was going to change, because this is a very smart organization. And for some reason, they just continue to be like, all right, guys, well, we messed up the early game. Don't worry, Shogo will be able to carry us. And guess what? Against better teams, that is going to be very difficult. Look at what they're doing to Straight here. They are putting him on an island now, and Shimmer is going to be able to pick up kill number 5. Opportunity for Void Grubs potentially if they want them. And what's going on the bottom side here? Still no response yet.
Okay, they are going to only have 4 Void Grubs, and they're not going to have the Void Mites spawning, but they really want to make this dive happen.
Here we go. All right. The one who gets knocked up, taking a lot of damage. Exithy trying to find a way out, but Fulls here, landing a stun. They go 2 for 1 on the dive, and that is really bad for Ole Miss. I don't want to say nail and coffin type deal because it's still early, and Shogo did cash out on a kill.
There's a lot of gold, exactly like you were saying, but now they have 4 void grubs here, so they're gonna have a lot of damage on the turrets. It's not gonna get the mites, which is really the big one. And now we have to see how they're gonna be able to use this objective, because not only have they gotten most of the void grubs, they've also now gotten 2 out of the early dragons that have been spawning. So some very big issues here for Ole Miss that we were talking about. It is all eyes on Shogo here. Can he outplay the situation? He has a lot of tanks in front of him. Let's just be honest, tanks are not going to need as much gold as their carries and able to actually do the job that they're hired for. But if your tanks are not strong enough, if they cannot live up against a lot of the damage that this Reluminate team is going to have, you are going to fall. And so now here for Reluminate, they're looking to provide a really big upset in terms of the seeding, in terms of where this team was kind of placed overall by a lot of the committee. And now I'm very excited. This was a team that we were looking forward to. I mean, Crucial Shimmer by themselves is already a team that you can kind of be excited about, but Exithy, someone who has had some okay performances in Collegiate, and Fools themselves coming in, I think is a really exciting roster, and potentially this is the start of a really awesome story for them here at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, well, let's see if they are able to cap off a victory in this series. Oh, the Ruby is
that's so
land. There's
unlucky.
a lot of damage.
The immune.
Yeah, the immune wore off, and Shimmer is able to pick up kill number 6, just absolutely ranching this top side. Objective bounty bell tolling for the side of Ole Miss here, and that is never a good sign, my friend. You are always wondering, like, man, how did we get here?
Oh my god, wait, that's huge though. The fact that the immunity to CC there falls right after or right before the tether from Karma. Great timing from Crucial, and now for the rest of Reluminate, they're able to trade this turret. It is a small win towards Ole Miss as they were able to grab the turret bounty, but then they get the Rift Herald as well, so this is another turret. This is potentially your mid-tier 1 falling here, and this opens up the map for Reluminate so much, as you're now able to move into the enemy jungle. You already see these extra pathways thanks to the Season 14 map changes. If they're able to grab this, it is difficult, I think, for Icelandic Hero to get that farm, and as Kazik, it is so important to get gold, to get levels under your belt. Yes, I mean, like, you can say that for every champion, but especially as an assassin, you are very reliant on these two metrics.
It feels like the game could break wide open here as Shimmer gets yet another kill. 7 for him, another man advantage for the side of Reluminate. They can do whatever they want. 30 seconds until the dragon is up. It would put them on potential for Soul Point. And things are they're just playing at such a high tempo. They're just getting free picks after free picks. They look for Shogo here.
Okay.
Unable to get him. Teleport on the backside. Kafu has to flash out. He's getting pretty low, but is shielded up. Uncle Sam is going in and dying once again on the teleport.
God, no.
Next target is Shogo. He's got a cleanse flash, and he goes down to Shimmer. Icelandic Hero is going to be the next target. You tag him one more time. It's 9 kills. It's going to be a turret as well. It's a party for Illuminate here in game 2.
We saw that 30 seconds before the dragon, they're able to find that first pick where they're able to stop Stray from being there. Unfortunately, Stray, you had the top laner mindset. You're just playing a tank, unfortunately. You cannot walk there. When you're playing tanks, one of the most important skill sets is when can I take damage and when am I supposed to back off and maybe build space or allow my team to walk up so that they can deal damage. And in that instance, because he fell, the rest of the team in a bit of an awkward situation, you saw all of those ultimates, all of those spells towards the Braum. But this is a champion that does not matter at this point. We are looking to try to kill the Lucian, the Syndra, the Viego, and none of that is able to happen because there's not enough damage to back up and get these executes that Shogo is looking for. So in that instance, I don't think they should have been walking up. That was just a situation for Ole Miss where you need to call off the play. You're not going to be able to contest for this dragon. And all of those win conditions we set up for them really kind of biting them now. Top lane falling apart at the pieces, not getting a lot of action. And a lot of this comes from the fact that Icelandic Hero wasn't able to do much in the early game. We saw that early dragon get some kills there for Shimmer. The fact that Crucial is able to set up yet again for Shimmer to pick up more kills. He is 9-0 on this Viego and 2.5 items at this point.
Yeah, by the way, this Rift Herald hasn't even been dropped yet.
Exactly.
This is just going to get even worse for Ole Miss before it gets better. Sure, there are some summoners down on the other side, but I don't even know if Ole Miss can take advantage. I fear they're a little too far behind, even though Shogo has 2 items. They need really perfect conditions in order to start crawling back into this game.
We'll have to see what they can do. There's a lot of options. They are first to the play in terms of the river, and so I want to see them play around vision. You can catch out certain champions, but I mean, again, look at the team, right? Like, you go to side lane, if you're looking for someone to try to pick out, who is going to be that person? It kind of has to be Fools in this instance because they are a Syndra, they don't have flash, they're not the most resilient. The Seraphs is not quite up yet. That is going to be a timer for them that they can find, but after that's finished, there's a shield that you have to deal with. There's, you're already lacking damage and you have to go through a Seraph shield. It's going to be very difficult to find these kills. You're almost never going to find Shimmer in a really bad position. Also has the ultimate to get out if they want. You are pretty tough. It's pretty tough to actually find this. You have to wait for the opponent to overextend, find a position, and during all this time, they're just going to be clearing all of the wards that you have in your jungle.
Yeah, one of the other things is the only person you really have to match is Straight here, and you can use that with Crucial, and now they're going to take advantage and pick him off. But there's not going to be too much of a response here unless they can get a kill on the other side of the map. As you know, Crucial is going to go down, just a matter of who picks it up. Now, what could they do with the Rift Herald? Icelandic Hero gets the pickup. Are they going to be able to drop this one here? It's taking a lot of damage. Shimmer will drop it. They're going to look to take top in her, get a lot of gold in their pocket.
They invested so many resources, and hopefully this kind of opens up a little bit of a spot for Stray to actually play the game, just because, fortunately, they have been kind of out of it for most of it. And all right, Crucial, you know, look, everybody gets one. The new Rift Herald obviously has a lot of people in flux as to how to be able to use it. It's also a little bit bugged. They have to be so careful here. We talked about how Rhino can be that champion, but just not today. Not in this one.
Yeah, Rhino is donezo. Nice root as well. Shimmer.
That's Baron.
Shimmer, dare I say, playing Zyra better than Rhino. And as you mentioned, that will be the Baron. On spawn, too. Sure, you get an objective bounty for Straight, but...
no, we don't care about that. That objective bounty's fake at this point. Like, we're here for this Baron at this point. And yeah, now that they're going to have the Baron, you have Dragon in a minute and a half as well. This is kind of going to be a Hail Mary situation. They're 4,000 gold, but it's going to feel like a lot more when you look at the fact that they just don't have any damage. This is something we talked about last game as well, right? Where we were looking at Costa Gamers, their team composition that, despite having some early leads, weren't able to transition because they didn't have enough damage. And in this game, it happened yet again where the side of Old Miss were not able to generate enough advantages early on. And now they're coming to a situation where they just don't have enough to be able to actually break through, punch in, and cause some damage. Their 6,000 gold is 15-4. We give any other team this scoreline, and we're saying this is done and dusted. So I think we need to readjust some of our expectations coming into this, because as soon as this Ocean Drake is taken, Ole Miss are kind of out of it. There's no one you're assassinating. You're just getting a ton of healing.
Yeah, and they couldn't even deploy on the map, so no wards or anything like that means that they're just gonna watch as this dragon gets taken. As the siege is gonna start up after that with this Baron. You're not gonna be able to get it off of anybody unless a critical mistake is made. You are absolutely right. This is just almost I dare say over for Ole Miss.
I mean, my jungler is 11-0. Like if my jungler is 11-0, like I just saying, like, this game should not be played. I'd be looking. He has almost 13 out of the 15 kills here. Shimmer is putting on a clinic and being one of those big carries that we were expecting coming into the qualifiers. A player that had, an unfortunate end, made top 16 at the end of the year, but for now is looking to try to make it back into that group stage and kind of prove a lot of us on the committee. Stray's just dead again. This turret's gone. Yep. He's gone as well. The dragon's going to be spawning.
Another kill for the Champions Q Darling, although a lot of damage coming out here. Icelandic Hero is going to survive. Okay. They're able to get 2 kills on the backside. Big shutdowns coming out as well. But now they're stacked up. It's going to be a 4.
No one's on Shimmer. He takes no damage.
Very low. And yeah, you mentioned it. Shimmer is ripping through. Icelandic Hero has to flash away. Are they going to be able to take down Shimmer? He's so close to getting Icelandic Hero, but he does. Is he going to be able to snatch the body and heal up? But it's Shogo who is untouched on the backside. Now Shimmer's got to get on top of Shogo. He's not able to stun him up, but he's going to be able to chase him down. And Shimmer, he's kind of caught between who he wants to go after, but Shogo knows he can't take a fight there. Disaster striking for Reluminate, but it doesn't matter. They're still so strong.
Oh, they're TPing as well. They're going to try and go for a numbers advantage. But remember, no jungler here. And Viego is available. Stray sitting there waiting to see who they're going to be able to pick off. But there's another teleport here. Fools is going to be ready.
Fools able to land the stun. They are going to be able to get on the Straight. Damage is coming out to Shimmer, but it's just not enough. Shogo isn't very close to just dying here. He's just going to have to go down the ship. And indeed, he does. The Dragon Soul secured by the side of Reluminate. A teleport coming down as well, as they're looking to potentially go for a game-ending push here with 2 carries down for 25 seconds.
That's incredible. I mean, Shout out to Shogo for playing us hard out. That entire sequence was a really good play from him. Just in general, I think his spacing was really clean. Just not enough. Shimmer is level 15. He has an insane amount of armor at this point. The Frozen Heart, an item that has so many stats and is incredibly cheap as well. Very difficult for Shogo to be able to bust through. Only has the lethality in this instance. So flat armor penetration versus Frozen Heart. Salute to you. You're never busting through that. Look how little damage they do. Oh my god.
Yeah. Foles is a little low, does get knocked up. He's down below 50% HP, but Shimmer is the one to watch. He's still so damn healthy. Strain is going to go down. Uncle Sam's going to go in just to go out, and he's getting shaken all about. Icelandic Hero stunned, has to back off. It's going to be a 5v3 the rest of the way, and I just do not see a way. Shimmer just still full HP. They've shown they can't do anything to take this guy down, as Rhino is dead. Shimmer, 16 kills for him, and Reluminate knocking on the door to a 2-0, and Shimmer's just getting a little silly with it. He's taking a whole lot of damage. He
takes no damage, man. This champ is OP.
Yeah, he is just over the top strong, and that will do it. Shogo can only watch as the structures fall, and Reluminate is the one to go 2-0. Seed 18 starting off strong after day one.
Oh my god. Seed 18 Reluminate starting off 2-0. Ole Miss going to be dropping down to 1-1, which is not a terrible score. Remember, they only have to win 2 more games, but for Reluminate, a very big jump in the standings. And remember, we talked about this in the first game, but due to the format of Swiss, their matches are only going to get harder. We look at some of the other teams that were here. You look at all the other 1-0 matches, 25th seed, 23rd, 19th seed. They could very realistically now have to play against Winthrop, Team Fish Taco, and Aporia. So if they're able to put up, which again, that's a match for tomorrow, I think we have a very exciting kind of storyline for Reluminate.
Yeah, I am so excited to watch them play against better and better competition, because Shimmer, absolutely nuts. This guy is crazy good. I love what they put together with their team composition. And really, the only time that Ole Miss was able to actually execute a bot lane dive, they lost it 2-1.
Yep. They weren't able to get a lot off of this bot lane. I think Icelandic Hero was just off timers because of the fact that he got caught on the dragon there. Wasn't able to make the crash on the bottom lane. We didn't actually see a lot from Uncle Sam actually be able to move out of the lane and really set up. I don't think we saw that synergy from these two. And this was a criticism coming out of 2023 that, we talked about at the beginning of the game, where Uncle Sam really has to step up if this team wants to break into that top 5, break into that top 4, and really earn that 4th seed that we gave them from the committee. So very interesting. Before we wrap up, I do want to say something that we said we were going to check in on. Morellonomicon here for Crucell. Healing reduced 450. So this item was absolutely piss useless, and I'm glad that we get to see a little bit more of Morellonomicon not being a real item. Most of it is just for the laning phase and try to stop straight from healing, but regardless, we are at the end of our broadcast here. Thank you guys, thank you everybody for watching a lot of these VODs, and we'll be back tomorrow with the 3rd round of Swiss and the final day of the open qualifiers here for NACL qualifiers. I've been Alk Battery, this is Yanni, and hopefully you'll be staying tuned and watching all of the other games that are happening today.